Thanks for hosting this.
You're welcome. Well, welcome, good morning, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. I'm so excited to have you here for this very special session with a very special lady. Everybody probably knows her, but just in case you have been living under a rock and never heard the name Trish Schwenkler, Trish is a legend in our industry, not just in our company, but in our industry. With ASEA, she is a presidential triple diamond executive. And what I love most about Trish is that she can just relate to everybody. Her background, she'll explain probably a little bit herself, but she built this business, she built her incredible global company as a housewife, as a wife and a mother. She's got an incredible infectious personality, very, very skilled with people, and an incredible teacher. So as I mentioned, she's a successful global entrepreneur in ASEA. She is number one. She is a number one income earner. And Bob and Trish are the first people to the $10 million club, the $10 million club. Last year, in 2019, just in case you're wondering if she's on the beach all day doing nothing, well, she's not. This woman just still holds an incredible pace. Last year, Trish and Bob were number one in growth in ASEA. And by the way, Malcolm Sword, who's going to be hosting this interview, was number two. So we've got an incredible panel right here. I'm so excited, Trish, to have you on this call. We always learn so much from you and we love you dearly. So thank you and welcome. Over to you, Trish.
Thank you so much, Christina. Super, super sweet introduction. You're looking beautiful this morning as always. Super happy to be with everybody. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Let's see, that should work. There we go. Okay. That should work. Can you see my screen, Christina? Yep.
We can.
Okay, great. Okay, great. So first of all, big kudos to the beautiful Christina, lovely inside and out, such a great champion for the ASEA cause around the world. And also, of course, thank you to Malcolm Sword for inviting me today to this webinar. Super happy to be here. Congratulations to Mal for being a recent Ambassador Triple Diamond with ASEA, and of course, one of the members of our incredible ASEA $1 Million Club. It's a real pleasure to be here with you and with your team today. Super happy to be with everyone from New Zealand. I kind of thought this was going to be a New Zealand only call, but I'm super happy to hear that there are people from Australia and Malaysia and the US and possibly other places as well. And the beautiful thing about today's world is even though we have travel restrictions, it's almost like being together in the same room through the power of technology. So super grateful that we're able to leverage that. So my husband, Bob, and I live in Idaho. I always put it on the map because even people in the US don't typically know where Idaho is. And so I just like to share a little bit of my story. My dream actually started when I was in grade school. And when I was in grade school, I was pen pals with my Aunt Pat, whom I'm named after, and she was a missionary in Brazil. And when I grew up, I wanted to be like my aunt, and I wanted to go to faraway countries and do important, good things in faraway lands that really made a difference for people. Well, I never got a chance to do that. I actually married my husband, Bob, 39 years ago in 1980. Bob has an engineering degree from Johns Hopkins University. He developed and patented equipment in the semiconductor industry. We lived in a nice home. He had a good job, and I stayed home and took care of our 3 children. And if anyone would have looked at us from the outside, they would have said that we had the American dream. And in many ways we did. However, through the years, I had suffered from a number of ongoing health complaints. And so I truly understand Mahatma Gandhi's statement when he says that your health is your true wealth. Probably more important than anything else in the world, your health enables you to work, to enjoy your family, to enjoy life. So we all know that there is a global censorship of health information, that the multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical companies have lobbied governments around the world, as well as the media, to show them in a favorable light and to make laws that are favorable to them, yet unfavorable to anyone else. So in 1993, I discovered the wonderful world of network marketing, and I discovered that the best health products in the world typically will not be prescribed to you by your doctor. They typically will not be found on the shelf of a pharmacy. Typically, they will come to you through word of mouth, and simply because someone cared enough to share with you. And so really, I've built my networking life for the past 27 years on a very simple principle, that our job really is sometimes we make network marketing very complex, but our job is simply to tell the truth about health products that can help people. And so when I found network marketing in 1993, I intuitively understood, and I almost immediately realized that network marketing was the way that my childhood dream of changing people's lives could come true. I started going to meetings, and I started learning about the business aspect of network marketing, that with network marketing, we can be an entrepreneur without taking on the risks of a traditional business. And you think especially about that in today's world. I live in Boise. I have a friend who is an anesthesiologist. He makes a very good income, but his business, of course, is shut down right now, even though he's a medical professional, because typically he and his partners do elective surgeries, and yet he still has to pay his high overhead for his office, for his liability insurance for his employees. And when I was talking to him the other day, I was so grateful that 27 years ago, someone cared enough to reach out to me and share the idea of a network marketing business with me. And so I learned back in 1993, J.P. Getty's famous concept: I'd rather earn 1% of the efforts of 100 people rather than 100% of my own efforts. And how do we do that? Of course, by building a team, right? So we put in a few hours a day. We find a few people who are willing to put in a few hours a day. They do the same, and on and on. So when I first saw this concept, this slide, I thought about the family that I was raised in. And this is a picture of my family. My mom and dad are sitting in the front with glasses on, and I'm standing in the back with glasses on. My parents have 8 children. In this picture, there are 7 of us. My parents both had full-time jobs. My dad worked in the day, and my mother worked in the evening as a waitress, because they both have a high school education like me. And even though they worked very hard, they also had side businesses. My dad bought and sold used boats out of the backyard, and my mother bought and sold used clothing out of our garage. And so I was the oldest girl. It was my job to take care of my brothers and sisters, to clean the house, to cook the dinner, to make sure the home was running smoothly. So I learned from a very early age to be very self-directed and to take a lot of responsibility. But often I would wake up at night and hear my parents arguing. And they were always arguing for the same reason: because there wasn't enough money. And when I saw this picture for the first time, I thought about my parents. And you may have people like that in your life, people who work very hard, yet if they get sick or if they go on holiday, their income stops because they don't have a team. And I said to myself, I love my parents, but I do not want my life to be like theirs. And in 1993, I made a decision that I would make a living while making a difference. I did this at the time, much to the chagrin of my husband, who was not excited about the idea of me starting a network marketing business. But I knew that it was my calling, that it was my mission, that this was what I was born to do. And over the years, I've talked to thousands of people about my products, about my opportunity. And just like many of you, some people tell us, well, it's too expensive. Some people say, well, I have to ask my doctor. Some people, you call them, but then they go into the witness protection program and you can't get a hold of them again, right? So our job is to continue going through those people that don't have enough consciousness to understand what we're offering them, keep them on our follow-up list, but continuing to move forward every day, simply putting out the message in a caring yet a detached way to find people just like all of you, just like Christina and Mal, who have decided to change their own lives and who are willing to work to change the world with you. So all of our future depends on the choices that we make. And with ASEA, of course, we have the opportunity for better health beyond our wildest imagination, and also better wealth beyond our wildest imagination. And guess what? With ASEA, we can choose to have both of these. So the reason that most of us are on this webinar is because we don't want a life where someone else tells us when to go to work, when to take a lunch break, and when we're allowed to have a holiday. We also do not want to be told what we're worth. The beauty of network marketing is that we determine our own worth based on our production and the production of the teams that we support. So all of you have chosen a different path in your life. Network marketing. This is a path that most people don't know much about. And of course, if people don't know much about something, what do? They typically think that there's something wrong with it, right? However, Robert Kiyosaki from Rich Dad, Poor Dad says that the wealthiest people in the world build networks. Everybody else just looks for work. And if people really understood this concept, and if they would just open their minds, every single person in the world would be in network marketing. And of course, if they knew about ASEA, every single person would be in ASEA. So just to continue my story a little bit, my husband and I spent 15 years with our first company. My first year, I really didn't make any money. I actually spent more money than I made. Back in those days, we had to buy videotapes and CDs to pass out. We didn't have the internet, so I had to travel and be in people's living rooms. But I understood from my parents the concept of a small business, that you have to invest time and money, and that the average small business, at least in the United States, doesn't cash flow for at least 5 years. And I do know how to work hard. So I stayed focused, I stayed committed. At that point, my husband actually was out of a job and he was doing some consulting. So he was home to watch the children. And probably out of sheer desperation, after 2 years, I had found some good business builders and I actually was earning a decent income. Bob never had to go back to corporate America. He continued to do some consulting for a few years, but after 4 years, we went diamond. He started doing all the background stuff. I'm more the out front person. And of course, that's like about a 6-figure income in US dollars. And after 7 years, we became one of the top 10 global earners in that company. Best of all, every dollar that we earned represented people just like you, people whose lives were being changed in so many ways by the product, by the business opportunity, and also by the opportunity to make a difference, to wake up every day and to have a purpose and a passion. So those were the first 8 years with that company were really great. Our income grew, our organization grew, we learned a lot. The last 7 years with that company, it was all downhill. Our income dropped and people started leaving the company due to things beyond our control. And that's when we learned that not only do you need a great product, you also need great management if you are going to be successful in a long-term network marketing company. So at that time, even though we had been quite successful, we had invested pretty much our life savings in an 8-acre parcel of commercial land here in Idaho. And we had built a commercial, an office warehouse complex. And we had built it with a partner. And we finished that complex on the day that 9/11 happened. So what happened was that our partner had to default, and we were left holding the bag of a multi-million-dollar loan that we really had no way to pay. So at that point, we had a loan on our home, we had a loan on our cabin in the mountains, and we had an astronomical loan on the commercial building that we had invested our life savings into. So when we found ASEA in 2009, about 10 years ago, we were not just looking for opportunity, we were desperate for opportunity. And after we left our first company, we spent 1.5 years looking for a new company. I call it wandering in the desert. It's very, very difficult to find a true home, something that you can truly believe in, something that you can really resonate, where all of the pieces fall into place. And I had almost given up. I had almost decided that, like my mother, I might just have to be a waitress. I might have to give up everything that I had worked hard for. We might have to declare bankruptcy. And that's honestly and truly where I found myself in 2009. Fortunately, out of the heavens came a text in December of 2009 about ASEA, this incredible cellular health company. I was actually invited to Salt Lake City. Those were the days when Vertus Norton, our original founder, was active. This is actually a picture of Vertus in his basement, and he's standing in front of the very first small machine that produced redox signaling molecules. And when I went to Salt Lake City, Vertus told us about this incredible redox signaling technology, something completely different from anything that had ever been brought to the world before, something that couldn't be copied. And he also shared with us the incredible results that his friends and his family had gotten from using this breakthrough technology. And of course, what does that translate into? That translates into a unique and powerful business opportunity. It's almost impossible in today's world to find a product that cannot be copied, that's unique, that, that's what happened to Monavie. They had this great, explosion with their acai berry. And then what happened? All of a sudden, you could buy powdered acai. You could buy acai in the big box stores. You could buy it from a multitude of places. So to have a product that can't be copied is, it's truly exceptional. And I'm just so grateful to Vertus Norton for turning down the offer from the pharmaceutical companies and making the decision to leave the world a legacy through the company that he created, which we are all so fortunate to be a part of this truly miraculous company. So I also fell in love with the ASEA financial opportunity, where people can earn immediate income, part-time income, and then as their team builds, and of course, as Mal can tell you, full-time to even unlimited income, to the millionaire club and beyond. So in December of 2009, my husband Bob and I made a promise to our founders, Vertus and Tyler Norton, a father and son team, that we would bring everything that we could to the table, every ounce of our energy, every skill that we had built, every connection that we had ever made in our life, every ounce of energy that we could muster, that we would bring it to ASEA, and that we would do everything that we could to help them take ASEA around the world. So we joined ASEA about 6 months after pre-launch in the US. We were not the master distributors. At that time, there were a lot of people, including our upline, making a lot more money than we were. But we had a motivation. And my personal motivation was panic. And today, a lot of people are in panic. But to me, nothing compares personally to those days in 2009, when we were truly on the verge of losing our home and everything that we had. And so I think out of urgent desperation, I went into all out massive action. And one of the things that I did in those early days in conjunction, whoops, let me turn this back, with my upline, with my Noble sponsor, Alan Noble, is we started the daily charge up call. I know how important it is. The T on the A lift, teach your team to do the same, right? And so our job is not just to teach people. Our job is also to uplift and to inspire people, and also to create rock stars within our organization. And so that's why we decided that we would start every single charge up call, first of all, with a product testimony, and then on Fridays with a business testimony, so that people could be inspired, so that their hearts could literally melt every time they heard these miraculous stories of people whose lives had been transformed by the miraculous molecules of ASEA. Back in those days, we didn't have diamonds. Alan Noble was a bronze. So, you know, we didn't have meetings like this where you invite the big cheeses on. So what we did, and this is what I recommend for people starting in New Zealand or anywhere else, your small team, one of the secrets to success is to really edify your people. No matter what rank they're achieving, no matter what they're doing, find some kind of forum, create a forum to make them feel important, because they are important. They are your bread and butter, and they are the backbone of this company. And so, you know, we would feature people who were new director 300s, new director 700s. We would hear their success stories, however small. And, you know, week by week, our businesses grew as people came to these calls. This was really one of our major building blocks in those early days. And for many people, it still is. The other thing that we did is, or that I did, is I went wide as quickly as I could. I sponsored as many people as I possibly could. I've had a rule for 27 years for myself. I haven't done it the past couple of years because every single week I qualify at Ambassador Triple Diamond. And so it's more my job now to support my teams around the globe. But for 20 some years, every single day, I prospected someone new for myself unless I had spoken to 3 prospects that day for my people, not training, but 3 prospects in their living room or on the phone or wherever it was, except Sundays, except holidays. And sometimes people say, well, what's the secret of your success? You know, you don't look that glamorous, you know, don't seem really that smart. And you know what it is? I think it's just really that consistency of digging deep every day. If you don't have someone to call, I would call someone out of the phone book. And I would just call numbers out of the phone book until I found someone who answered. And I would say, hey, my name's Trish. You don't know me. I live here in Boise. You know, I'm aligned with a miraculous company that has near miraculous health technologies. And would you be interested in learning about that and learning about how you could make some extra income if that interests you? So, you know, I didn't always say the same thing. I don't even know what I say. You know, I don't have a script. I'm probably the worst prospector in the world, the most unpolished prospector in the world. But you know what? I open my mouth and I say something, right? So I went wide, you know, as quickly as I could. And then I started building in depth. What does that mean? That means you're working with your people, but you're also working through your people. If your people you sponsored aren't doing something, ask them who you can talk to on their behalf. Ask them to get a group of people together. Keep in touch with them. Maybe a few months or a few years down the road, they might get active, or they might refer someone to you, right? So we work 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 levels deep. And that's how we build a business. We work wide, we work deep, we work with anybody who's willing to work. If they're not willing to work, we work through them. So back in those days, we had only one product. Of course, that was ASEA Redox. Back in those days, it was just called ASEA. We had a different bottle. Our biggest enrollment package back in those days was 4 cases, and that enrollment product or package was worth only 100 volume points. So I advanced to triple diamond and beyond, because back in those days we didn't have the ambassador and presidential ranks, simply on 100 point orders. The beauty of that was that if someone came in with a 4-pack with 100 points and got on auto ship, you had a very, very stable business. We didn't have a lot of fluctuation, you know, which the big packages are fantastic. You can build quickly. Next week, I'm going to release a new tips from Trish video. with a woman from North Carolina named Mary Margaret Donahoe, who has created this incredible video showing people how over a year's time, ordering the eight-pack entrepreneurial package will save you hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So you're going to be seeing that. It's not that I recommend building with 100 points, but I just want to stress the fact that you know, we just built, no matter what the deterrence, no matter you know, no matter what. Now, the other thing that we did was we did events. What does that mean? That means that we did phone events. Back in those days, we didn't have Zoom. So Alan Noble did a weekly Tuesday night webinar. That's how I sponsored Denny Robinson. She listened to that webinar. You know, it's an upline's job if there's not tools in place to create the tools, right? So Alan created the Tuesday night call. Alan Knight created the charge up call. We created, you know, calls on various nights with new people in our team. So like great big three-ways where Alan would share the incredible story of how his father, you know, had been on chemotherapy and it started to damage his lungs. And so Alan Noble went on a search for a product that could help his father, found ASEA, started shipping it overseas to Ireland. And 4 months later, his dad went to his doctor and they said, you're in perfect health. So you know, we would share the stories, we would share the uniqueness of ASEA. We would have, I would go to Spokane. Denny Robinson put together her first meeting in the middle of the worst snowstorm in Spokane, Washington, but I think 30 people came. And from that, Denny Robinson has built a global, international, multi-million-dollar business. So the moral of that story, you guys, is, you know what? Big trees grow from little seeds. We all started small, right? We all did the small things, the small meetings, you know, the really, what would you call it? The grind, you know, the challenging work, even though your emotions are like, oh, I'm sick of this, everybody's saying no to me, you still pick up the phone, you still go out, you still talk to people every day, prospecting new people. Every time you do something with the intention of getting better, you do get better. So every time you share the ASEA story, every time you share your own story, you know, with your heart, doing at the service of others, you become better. So here we are in 2020. I know one of the things that Mal had said he wanted to ask me is, you know, what would you do if you were starting up New Zealand right now? You know, it's quite challenging. Here we are in 2020 in a world that we could never have envisioned. Even a few short weeks ago, we could have never imagined that we wouldn't be traveling, you know, to do meetings, that we wouldn't be, you know, having events, you know, sponsored by ASEA corporate, that Mal wouldn't be over there in New Zealand traveling around doing all sorts of meetings. We never could have envisioned that. So again, this is just a time to strengthen our resolve, to move forward with the tools that we do have. There are still people out there looking, searching, praying, like I was, like Mal was, you know, a rooster without his feathers or something, a feather rooster duster, something like that Mal always talks about, right? So one thing I would definitely recommend is use your tools, you guys. So one of the great tools that we have now are these Meet ASEA meetings that the corporate's been doing over Zoom this past week for us. Tyler Norton's incredible story of ASEA, Chuck Funky talking about the ethos and the mission values of ASEA. And then last night, Jerem Webb, a virtual Meet ASEA. These are incredible tools that you can, you know, send people to I Am ASEA, tell them to go to webinars and calls, and then click on We Are ASEA. These are I have a guy in Denmark in my organization. He's maybe in ASEA for a couple of months, and he listened to Jerem Webb's call, and he's like, I don't want to get a job. I'm going full force, full steam with ASEA, lockdown or not, and this is going to be my tool, this virtual Meet ASEA with Jerem Webb. So super great tools, super great products. I'm just super grateful again, to be with you guys here today. Happy to be around the world, no matter what the circumstances are. I'm so grateful that I've been able to be a part of ASEA's growth over the past 10 years. And when I started in MLM, I didn't know anyone outside of the United States. I was a housewife from Boise, Idaho, and I knew a few relatives in other states. I started prospecting them. They led me to other people in other states in the US. And over time, that led me to various countries. So here I am in Singapore with somebody most of you know, Danny Doyle, about a year and a half or two ago. And here's what I love about network marketing. In network marketing, it doesn't matter if you are male or female. It doesn't matter if you are rich or poor. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. It doesn't matter if you have a lot of education or a little education. This mission, this business is about being hungry, caring about people, and going out and willing to do whatever it takes. I started out with no business experience, no networking experience, a very tiny circle of influence. At the time, I was a very shy person because I felt like I had nothing important to say to anyone. I had a very tiny list of people, but I was willing. I had a burning desire to build this business. I had a burning desire to change people's lives. I had a burning desire to create more financial dignity for myself and for my family and to be able to contribute to the world. I had a very strong work ethic, which, as I shared with you, I'm grateful at now. I wasn't at the time, that my parents instilled that with me. And I was basically willing to do whatever it takes. And I did not quibble with the price. I for many years, I have put every ounce of energy, time. I've sacrificed time with my children. They say that network marketing is a great business because you can spend more time with your children. And in some respects, that's true because we can create our own schedule. We can pick and choose when we want to work. But at the same time, sometimes I would sponsor schedule meetings months in advance. And then it turned out my kids had, some kind of important event and I couldn't just cancel what I had scheduled. So, there is a sacrifice. I've never been a TV watcher. When I was growing up, my parents, really didn't have a TV. A lot of times it was broken and we were just too busy to watch TV. So, some people talk about binge watching on, now that the shutdown, don't watch the AIR. It's the automatic income reducer, right? And just be willing to sacrifice, to give up some of those things for a period of time so that you can really create what you want to create with this business. So like Mal, there's many, many people in ASEA who come from all different backgrounds who are earning more income than a surgeon. Like Warren Buffett says, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. And there's nothing wrong with work. Work is noble. Work keeps us engaged. It keeps us young. It keeps us, happy. I'm really, if I'm in a bad mood or something like that, I get on a call with ASEA and I'm instantly in a good mood, right? So there's nothing wrong with working, but at the same time, it's nice to have the ability and the opportunity and the choice about whether or not you want to work until you die, right? So I just want to finish my comments here. I don't want to take too long, but so why ASEA, and especially why now? So a few weeks ago, I think it was about 3.5 weeks ago, I actually had the opportunity to go back to Salt Lake City, which is about a 6-hour drive from my home. I actually had a guy from Malaysia who had purchased his tickets a month before, and the shutdown was just starting. So he decided to make a trip to Salt Lake City. So I was able to go to headquarters with him. And when I was there, of course, I visited our beautiful headquarters, but also I was able to visit the production facility. So when I was there, I heard things that many of you have heard before, but I love hearing them again and again. Because I think in these times of insecurity, we're all looking for something that we can hold on to, something that is not going to let us down, something that is tangible, that, everything is just so uncertain now. But what we know about ASEA is that their financial assets are held in cash, which means even though the stock market is fluctuating wildly, that has no impact on ASEA. They have ample cash reserves. Why does that matter? That matters because, ASEA has not experienced a slowdown. In fact, the past month has been the highest ever ASEA sales in their history. The last quarter has been the biggest first quarter ever in ASEA history. But at the same time, we don't know what might happen in the future as people's incomes begin dropping and things like that. So, if ASEA should need extra cash to make it through some difficult times, that's going to be no problem for them. The other beauty about ASEA is that they control their own manufacturing. This is a little video that I took when I was there. And when I was there, Scott Aldred told me that the redox production plant is fully owned by ASEA. All of the components, the tubes, bottles, caps, and boxes are all manufactured in the USA. What does that mean? That means we don't depend on China or any other foreign country for our supply chain, like so many other companies do. Companies inside our industry and outside of our industry are experiencing setbacks simply because of the disruption in the supply chain. So Scott Aldred also shared with me that they had overstocked all of the global shipping and distribution centers around the world because you just don't know what's going to happen with shipping in any country. And so just to make sure that there's plenty of product there. So just super grateful to be with this great company, super grateful now, grateful for the past 10 years. So I'd like to welcome anyone who's new to the ASEA family. It is time to build New Zealand for sure, but it's also time to build around the world. Most people have never heard of ASEA, or even if they have heard of it, no one has really taken time to explain to them what these amazing molecules really are, as well as the great company that we're affiliated with. So in closing, the big question here is, where will you all be in 5 years? So most of us start out slow in network marketing. It's a completely new education, a completely new occupation for most of us. I certainly did not start out quickly. Mal and I were able to move quickly in network marketing because we had previous network marketing experience, right? Previous network marketing contacts. We worked for those with blood, sweat, and tears. At least I did. But here's the thing: most people underestimate where they will be in 5 years. So make a commitment, you guys. Make a long-term commitment to ASEA and to your own bright future. The past 10 years with ASEA have been the happiest, the healthiest, the most fulfilling, and the most prosperous years of my life. I wish that for each one of you. I know that it is possible with ASEA. You truly can change your life with our incredible company, our incredible products, our incredible management team. So with that, I'm gonna stop my share here. I guess that took kind of a long time. I hope you're okay with that, Mel. And
Awesome.
I kind of thought, okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Trish. And also just let me say special thanks to Bob as well, who often goes without a lot of recognition, but there's a great saying: behind every successful woman, there's a very successful man, and Bob is just that. So I just want to recognize Bob on the call as well. So I know he does a lot of work behind the scenes for all of us. So just please give him a shout out and tell him we say thank you to him as well. Just a couple of quick questions. And firstly, we're very grateful for your time. I know how busy you are. And also thank you very much in advance for coming and doing a presentation next week, which for everybody's information will be about 1 o'clock your time in the morning, Trish. So thank you very much in advance for doing that for us next week. Just let me ask you a couple of questions, if I may. The first question I'd like to ask you is, where do you see ASEA being in 5 years as a company? Where do you see this growth going, both before the COVID, but now with the economic meltdown in the world, with so many people being forced into the looking zone? Where do you see the future of this company in 5 years?
So here's the thing, Mal. I'm far from being like a fortune teller or a like a business genius, right? I'm a housewife from Idaho, right? But you know, just based on what we've seen the past month, you know, I just see continued growth. ASEA is in a very, very strong growth phase, especially over the past couple of years and the past couple of months. Again, like I mentioned before, things have just grown faster than expected. And just like you said, you know, people are thinking about their health, they're thinking about income. And so I see us continuing to grow at a very steady clip, creating, you know, great momentum as more and more leaders come on board, and just a great time to be with ASEA.
Awesome. And I think many of us think exactly the same thing. I have two more questions. A lot of the questions I had, you answered during your presentation, so thank you for doing that. I have two other questions. First one is really relates to your ability and how did you train yourself to discipline the disappointments? How did Trish Schwenkler, how did you learn to train yourself to deal with the no's, especially in the early stages? There's a lot of people on this call. This is a new industry. The number one challenge that we all face as human beings is dealing with rejection. Sure. And so I'm interested to understand how Trish Schwenkler learned to deal with that in those, especially in those early years.
Sure. Yeah. So here's the thing. Here's what I find, Mal. You can tell me if this is true for you or not. I don't get a lot of no's, but what I get is a lot of people going into the witness protection program. Like, right? Because people in general, people are pretty polite. You know, they'll say, oh yeah, I'll take your link. Oh yeah, I'll come to your meeting. And then what happens, you know, not everyone, but a lot of times we're disappointed, right? So I think it's not the upfront no's, but it's, you know, like these people drift away. Maybe they drop off auto ship, whatever it is. There's so many disappointments along the way. And of course, there's a lot of great triumphs, a lot of great excitement. You know, that's why we have these events, this, you know, to show people, you know, that in spite of the disappointments, there are triumphs. But as for me, so I think a few things go into that. One, of course, is my childhood. You know, I was disappointed a lot in my childhood. Okay. It was like, you know, I didn't get anything handed to me. Even though I worked very hard to take care of the house, my parents usually were not happy with what I did. So anyway, the point is I experienced a lot of disappointments growing up. So I think I kind of have an innate, excuse me, kind of built-in shield against, or ability to withstand emotional highs and lows. The other thing I learned early on that I talk about a lot of times is the power of affirmation, right? So I learned to say out loud my goals, my dreams. And when you do that, you create endorphins, which are natural mood lifting chemicals. Like what I would do in the early days when my children were young, like the first picture I showed you, I would get them off to school. I would get on my bike and I would go out and I would say, as I'm riding my bike, I, Trish Schwenkler, have what it takes to be successful. I am a caring, compassionate, persistent, consistent, magnetic, effective, efficient, duplicatable, balanced, healthy network marketing leader. And I attract caring, compassionate, persistent, consistent, magnetic, effective, efficient, duplicatable, balanced, healthy network marketing leaders into my media downline. So I get on my bike, the wind's, you know, blowing, or the rain's coming down, or the snow, or whatever it is, right? You get outside, you get fresh air, you say these affirmations, you know, you create endorphins by doing exercise. And I mean, I guess that's kind of my trademark, but really that's what I did, you know. And then I went home, and didn't matter if the beds were made, didn't matter if the dishes were washed, didn't matter if the laundry was done. Like, you got to put on blinders. You got to force yourself to focus on the most important things first. Eat the frog first when you wake up in the morning, right? Do those prospecting calls. Find someone to talk to. Every day, grow your list. It doesn't matter how you do it. B&I. I was on a webinar Thursday night, last night, with a guy who moved from Chicago to Columbus, Ohio. And he had like no circle of influence. What did he do? A couple of years ago, he joined a business networking group. Now, of course, that business networking group can't meet in person, but so they started having Zoom meetings, and then they started inviting networking groups from other states to join them on the Zoom meetings. And he just completed fast forward from these internet Zoom meetings. You know, it's like, if you want to build your list, you can find a way to build your list. And that's the secret of network marketing. Every day, put somebody on your list. Every day, take somebody off your list. How do you take them off your list? You take them off your list by freaking calling them, right? Or talking to them or sharing with them, right? And then they go on a new list, and the new list is your follow-up list, right? And so one great way to discipline your disappointments, pick up the phone and call somebody. Get excited about somebody that you just talked to, right? So you're disappointed with someone from yesterday. Someone dropped the auto ship. Get on the phone and call somebody, right? As soon as you do that, you start creating a different energy about yourself, right? And that, you know, like, hardly anybody says no. If you're nice to them in a nice way, people usually will accept what you're offering. Usually disappointments come later, but to get on the phone with somebody and they accept what you're offering, that's exciting. It's fun. It lifts your mood immediately. It takes you out of that, like, back here depression thing into the out here I'm excited again thing, right? And over time, you'll find people like you and me. And, you know, one day we were new in network marketing. Somebody had to find us, right?
Exactly. Great answer. Thank you very much. I've got one final question, if I may. You've known the Norton family for 10 years, and one of the keys, as you mentioned right up front, was one of the most important, if not the most important part of building a business, especially a legacy business. And many of us on this call are interested in developing a legacy, leaving a legacy for future generations. How significant is the fact that this company is owned and run, and how do you feel? Tell us a little bit about how you feel about Mr. Virtus Norton, please, just to close.
So, Virtus would often say, if we could tell the world what ASEA really is, we would be a $10 billion company overnight. Actually, we probably would be a $100 billion company in today's world overnight. So, I mean, I could go on and on about that, but as far as the Nortons themselves, you know, obviously they come from a great business discipline and background. So to have people every time, so 2 or 3 times a year, I go to Salt Lake City for the Global Advisory Council meetings. And, you know, I consider myself really fortunate, because every time I'm there, like, I think all of us, including myself, I tend to get in a zone where maybe I kind of take things for granted a little bit, or, you know, maybe find something to grumble about, right? You know, like, how could I have anything to grumble about? But sometimes I find things to grumble about anyway. But I go there and I'm surrounded, you know, by the executives of our company, no longer Virtus, of course, but Tyler and Jerem. And I'm just blown away every time by the, like, deliberate, careful decisions they make on our behalf, and the years of business experience that they have. So just so grateful to be around people like that. And Virtus, what can you say about Virtus? I mean, I feel so fortunate that I was there in the early days, and Virtus was at every meeting. And one thing I really admire about Virtus is his work ethic. So here's a man, you know, in his late 60s, doesn't need to build a business, yet in those early days, he came to every meeting. And not only did he come to every meeting, he was the last person to leave every meeting. He would stand there and talk with person after person after person. You know, they would tell him, you know, their stories. They would cry. They would tell him, you know, ask him to open Russia, you know, whatever, you know. And, you know, I mean, you know as well as I do, you know, that's fun, but it can also be taxing, day after day, hour after hour. And every person, he would treat every person as if they were the only person in the entire room, the most important person. And sometimes that'd be frustrating, because, you know, like 40 other people are waiting to talk to him. But, you know, Virtus is a true giant of a man. And My personality has really been softened and impacted by my relationship with the Norton family, and just super grateful for that.
And I think many of us, Trish, really want to see this company get to at least $1 billion while he's still here. So a lot of us are pushing on very hard to make that happen. So let me just maybe I'll just pass back to you, Christina. But before I do, just let me say thank you very much, Trish. I know you've got a lot to do. You've got a massive organisation, and this is a pretty stable line for you. So it's not a line that you go to bed worrying about. Yeah, I better get in and boost that line. You've got three. Well, at least 3 ambassador triple diamonds in Australia. So this is a very solid business. So we really appreciate your time. I know that giving into this organization in terms of your bottom line, but that's not why you're doing the business anymore. I understand that as well. So just wanted to say thank you both to you and also to husband Bob. I hope he's enjoying his Mustang. And thank you very much, and we'll reconnect. We'll reconnect next week. But I'm very grateful to you and very appreciative of your time. So thank you very much for sharing. Thank you.
My pleasure, Mel. I have a lot of respect for you. Thank you, Mel. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, there really isn't much to add to that. I love listening to Trish. I wish we could have a 10-hour seminar with Trish Schwenkler. It just feels, I know you're on the other side of the world, but it just feels like we're having a cup of coffee together on the couch. And I hope that you can take, well, I'm sure you'll take, so many messages from this wonderful conversation, from everything that Trish has shared. For me, my takeaways is just always Trish is real. Trish is just genuinely herself. There's no silly airs. She doesn't try to be anything she's not. She really just brings a genuine love for people, genuine love for this company, and it's infectious. You can see why she has the organization she has. And it's a wonderful reminder to each one of us that we don't have to be anything else other than our very best self. So thank you, Trish, so much for coming. We absolutely adore you. And this has been a wonderful, wonderful session with you. Thanks.
I adore you as well, Christina. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, each and every one of you, for joining this webinar. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Mal. Have a wonderful day or night wherever you are. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.